In this video, I'm going to discuss the worst and the best tag for Woodgrove Acres BTO that was launched back in June 2026. So if we look at the corresponding Google map, this is basically the location for Woodgrove Acres. As you can see to the right, there's another BTO that is being developed, which is Woodgrove Edge. And then right across, there's another condo here. And there's also a shopping mall within walking distance, which is the Woodgrove. Now, as you can see, to the south side, there's actually Seletar Expressway and also Marsiling flyover. It is unfortunate because actually like this part will be able to see greeneries, but then expressway tends to be very noisy and dusty. Now, you might be excited to see there's some empty plots to the west side of the plot. However, unfortunately, if we look at the URA master plan, these are actually already reserved for another development. So those empty plots, if you look at it, this one is already reserved for future high-rise development. Most likely, I think it will be another BTO. That would be my guess. And then this part is reserved for health and medical care center. And then this portion is reserved for church. However, having said that, I am guessing that the health medical care center as well as the church would be low-rise building, right? So maximum probably would be like what, level 6, level 7, around that much. But then again, this one would be high-rise. So the height would be most probably the same with this Woodgrove Acres BTO itself. Now, before we discuss different blocks, probably it would be good if I remind you first what are the flat type based on the color. So as you can see, this one is 2-room Flexi for the light peach, and then the darker pink would be like 2-room Flexi type 2. Green is 3-room. This type of yellow is 4-room. It's actually, they just put like different shades of yellow. So okay, this one is 5-room, and then this one, the very light yellow, would be a rental flat. Okay, so if we look at the site plan, just to remind you again, the expressway is over here. And actually, HDB already tried to put some separation between the expressway versus the units that are for sale. Because as you can see, for example, they already put the multi-story car park over here. And also, all of the rental flats are here. So this is a dedicated block just for rental flats. They already tried to put some separation as well as putting some plots for park before Seletar Expressway. But having said that, just based on my personal experience, if you live so near to the expressway, the sound and the dust will still be a factor that you need to consider. Now, if we look at the different blocks itself, what is interesting is different blocks have different heights actually. So if we look at the legend, actually block 447A would be the tallest because it goes up to level 19. And then for block 446A, 446B, it goes up to level 17. And then for 447B, it goes between 18 and 15, depending on which stack. And then for block 448A, this is going up to level 16. So just please note that the heights are different for different blocks. Another thing that I probably should bring to your attention is there are also additional rental flats beyond the dedicated block 448A being inserted into the other blocks. So as you can see, for block 446A, you have these two as the rental flats. And then for block 446B, also you have stack 683 as the rental flats. Block 447A also have 2 stacks for rental flats. The only block that has no rental flat is this one, 447B. I'm just stating the fact. I'm very neutral, very supportive of making sure we are being inclusive, but I'm just simply stating the fact. All of the blocks that is planned at Woodgrove Acres, 447B is the one that has no rental flat. Just stating the fact. Okay, now let's talk about which one is the best stack for each flat type. Let's start with 2-room Flexi Type 1. So for 2-room Flexi Type 1, unfortunately, you only have 2 stack options, basically either 673 or 685, and then that's pretty much it. It's a tough choice because none of them are ideal actually. In my humble opinion, both got its own problems. But if you put a gun on my head, I'd probably pick 685. And why am I saying 685? Because it gives you a little bit more distance towards the next unit opposite it. So as you can see, there's a greater distance between 685 versus other units, even though there's a linkway here. I don't think linkway is available at every single level, no? So I think it should be fine. Why not 673? Because actually it will be blocked with 448A. Because if we look at the height again, 448A goes up to level 16, while block 446B goes up to level 17. So what I'm trying to say is that this block is only one level shorter versus this block. So if you pick 673, it will still be block view anyway. You cannot see the greeneries unless you are at the very top. The highest level can lah, because it's like one floor higher than block 448A. But then other than that, no. So, and as you can see, the distance between this and this is much closer versus this and this. So again, two-room Flexi Type 1, I think I would go with 685 because there are only two options. Okay, next one, let's move to two-room Flexi Type 2. Now, this is also a tough choice because if you look at everything, there's not really much option for unblocked view because like this one will be blocked by another public housing. This one is blocked by a condo. Like this one, currently is still seeing open field, but it will be blocked in several years to come because it's already reserved for another high-rise building. Probably 675 would be the best out of the bunch. Why am I saying that? Well, as you can see, at the right angle, you might be able to see these greeneries, even though the Seletar Expressway is also right there. And then another factor to consider is that healthcare and medical center as well as the church will most likely be low-rise building, which means that if you are able to secure a unit, let's say level 10 and beyond, then probably you would still have some unblocked view for stack 675. 655 is okay, but only for several years. So as long as the development hasn't started for these other land plot, 655 is actually still quite decent. And then for inner facing two-room Flexi Type 2, it sucks because like this one, 687, it's like somewhat near the playground. This one, 725, is probably slightly better because this one is elderly fitness corner, which hopefully not as crowded as the playground. Yeah, but honestly, it's a tough choice because this Woodgrove Acres BTO is unfortunately being surrounded by other developments. So yeah, it's just tough. Now let's go to three-room flat. For three-room flat, you have options for every block except the rental blocks lah. As you can see, you have this one, 657, 713, 739, 727, and 691. Just right off the bat, I would say 691 is not my favorite. Why am I saying that? Again, it's facing the playground, man. Just again, based on my personal experience, even if you live like more than level 6, honestly, you can still hear the playground noises. Even though high floor, you can still hear them. So 691 would not be a peaceful choice. For 727, depending on the floor level, if let's say you are at the level where the linkway is there, then you might have some privacy issues. Like people might be able to see the inside of your unit if they are on the linkway. But then other than that, it should be fine. So which one is my favorite for three-room flat? Honestly, this is another tough choice because like unfortunately, like every single option has a downside. So 739 is probably okay if you are able to get high floors. Why? Because the multi-story car park will go up to like level 7, right? Whereas this block 447B is going to be like up to level 18. So if you are able to get high floors, then you can be higher than the multi-story car park. That is assuming that you are okay with expressway noises and dust. Again, even though there are some distance between this unit versus the expressway, just based on my personal experience, you know, the noise are going to be quite intense if you're not used to it. Strangely enough, my personal pick would probably 713. I know it sounds really strange and then there's just no magical reason behind it. The reason why I would have picked 713 simply because there's already a certainty. Why am I saying that? Because across the street, you have Woodgrove condo, right? Which is already developed. And then this one is another BTO, which should already be done when you collect your keys. So at least with 713, it is corner unit and you don't have to worry about construction noises. Whereas 657, even though it is nice for now, but again, the site opposite this land plot will be developed into high-rise development. And as you know, construction can take several years, right? It could be like a good 4 to 5 years. So yeah, personally, I would pick 713. Again, 727 is also quite okay as long as you are not at the level where the linkways are being developed. Okay, now let's move on to, now let's talk about forum flat. So if you are looking for unblocked view, probably the closest option for forum flat that might be unblocked would be stack 693. Why? Because if you look at the right angle and assuming that you are able to get level 8 and beyond, you will be taller than the multi-story car park at that angle, even though your view this way will be blocked by the block 448A, but at an angle you would still be able to see some greeneries, of course, beyond the Seletar Expressway. If you go this side like this, another option is if you don't mind the construction noise for several years, stack 677A at an angle probably give you some airspace because health and medical care usually are low-rise building, so at an angle you will be able to see at least some distance before you see another building, even though you would basically like looking at each other with this 5-room flat across the block, right? So unfortunately there's not many ideal option in this particular BTO. I would not pick 665 simply because its proximity to the playground. And then 731 would be a bit problematic because it is at a bend. As you can see, I think you would have some privacy issues because people will pass by your unit, especially if you like to open your door to let the wind comes in. You would have some privacy challenges for 731. If you want some inner facing forum flat, probably 723, 703, and also 701 are equal in my opinion because basically this facing the elderly fitness spot, so it's still okay. 705 is at the corner, and you know, because this BTO is so far away from any MRT station, you would need to take bus a lot. So at least 705 you would be closer in terms of the walking distance to the nearest bus stop. Probably that would be my consideration. 663 for the same reason as 705 is in the corner and it is near the bus stop. Yeah, unfortunately for forum flat there's no ideal choice. Everything got its own cons to it. Okay, next let's talk about options for 5-room flat. For 5-room flat, probably stack 721 would be the best of the bunch. Why? Because if you manage to get a high floor, basically level 8 and above, you would be higher than the multi-story car park, and then you will be able to basically see the greeneries beyond the expressway. So probably 7 to 1. Other than that, 7 to 1 is also a corner unit, so you would have more privacy if we compare it with 741 or 719, which is also facing the same direction. So if you don't mind with the privacy risk, 719 and 741 is also quite okay because not everybody opens the door when they are at home anyway, right? 653 is probably a good pick as well because at an angle, it will basically be at a diagonal of a low-rise building. Although, of course, it is looking at each other with stack 677, right? Yeah, but 653 is probably a decent option as well given the circumstances because it is corner unit. However, I would avoid 689 simply because the proximity to the playground, unless you manage to get like very high floor unit. If you want to know my opinion about other BTO site plan in June 2026 launch, check out my channel because I will be discussing it on separate videos. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.